Guys, hi there. I'm Vitale. If you haven't watched this channel before, we try to go deep into stocks. And I'm sorry we haven't had a lot of videos lately because my other channel, Freelancer Finance, we're just killing it in the amount of content. So I'm going to put a link to the channel somewhere here and below. So if you haven't seen that channel, but you've seen this one, obviously please go join that. And if this is your first time here, so click the like and subscribe and hit the notification because we go very deep on stocks and we're going to have multiple follow-ups to many companies. So you're going to want to watch this if you actually care about your portfolio and you want in-depth information. This is the place to come to. Okay, today we're talking about Meta. What's that, you say, right? It's Facebook. They've changed their name. So let me go to this real quick. Facebook is changing the name to Meta Platforms. A lot of you probably don't care. Okay, I get that. And you're wondering, why am I covering such a big company? Isn't the growth over for this behemoth? Currently, they're worth a market cap of $934 billion. Obviously, no one is stupid enough to short this. Well, maybe 1% of people are. And the forward PE is 25, let's say. Okay. While other growth companies are much higher. Why is that? And the price was actually down. I wish I did this a little bit earlier. Went as low as $312, but I still think this is a great buy and a great opportunity to get into just a crazy business that I never thought I would be going hard in. I am not buying this for Facebook. I am not buying this for Instagram. I'm not buying this for WhatsApp, even though those are money-making machines. I'm buying this because I feel like Oculus is Facebook's next big winner. And people who don't know what VR is or haven't tried it out might not understand why I think that. And even I didn't quite get it. So recently I did buy an Oculus. And the only reason I did it is because the price was crazy. Look at this. It's $300 to buy an Oculus. And I figured it'd be a good Christmas present for my kids. They're small. Maybe they would enjoy it. Even if I didn't like it, big deal, right? So the first day that I got this thing, I was basically addicted. It's just a crazy experience. When you put it on, you actually, if you've never tried VR or you haven't tried it in a long time, I haven't tried it already in over 5 years. I just didn't understand how far it had come, that it would be so interesting. Like, it's not just gaming. It's literally like a machine to teach people. Basically, to have meetings, to teach people, to meet with friends, to watch movies. That is the future that we're headed to, and I didn't even realize it until I put this thing on my head and saw it firsthand. Because this is not something you can explain to people. You can't show them these terrible graphics and explain that this is what the future holds. These terrible 2005 graphics. Believe me, when you step in, your whole perception of it changes. I do want to show quickly why I think Facebook is going to win. Like, this is not a maybe for me anymore. I've literally come around in a month that Facebook is going to win the metaverse. They're going to win at least a platform that you have to get onto the metaverse. And there's a couple of reasons, but here's a couple of videos I want to show you. One is the games that are being created that are making it, and some of these games are available in other platforms. This is not the point. I'm going to show you this game is called Smash Drums. I bought it, and I'm not a drummer, by the way, but I am a musician. I played guitar for a long time. But as soon as I got into this was a drum simulator for me. This is a way to teach rhythm to people. It is not just a game. So I'm going to play a little bit just so you can see. And you're going to think it's only, oh, these terrible graphics. But you are in it. You are playing drums with these controllers. You believe it. It's amazing. Like, anyone who hasn't tried this just has to try it. And I bet you anything you're going to spend $300 plus the $20 for the game and have a lot of fun. Let me put it this way. This is not finance people. These are just VR people interested in VR and gaming. So check this out.
You've got to work towards in the game. Let's have a look at how the game actually works. I want this one. Main menu, please. Yes. To show you the mechanics of the game, I'm going to play this song here on normal, I think. And I'll speak over this one a little bit just to explain how the game works.
To explain a little bit, the hand controllers that he has, they know exactly where you are in space. So when you are holding them, you think you're holding two drumsticks. It's insane, okay? You actually think you're holding drumsticks and you're going to be playing drums. So he sees, obviously, floating drums and he's playing them. So I'm just explaining it for people who've never tried VR and like think, why is this special? It's because your mind is confused and you think you are in the VR game, that you are going to be playing drums. That's why it is special.
And then I'll show you maybe 2, maybe 3 more songs where I won't speak. I'll just play the song and you can get a real feel for how this game works. Now, I'm going to play on normal. Okay, so when you load into a song, you're chucked into an environment first and foremost. Now, right now I'm in some kind of prison, which is nice. There's a toilet and there's a sink. Very lovely. Now, the environment, you'll see it happen, but it will start to change and evolve and decay around me as we play the song. You're then shown the different difficulty settings, so you've got easy, normal, hard, or extreme. Fairly straightforward. Now, if you play on any of those difficulties, then your score will be pitted up against people playing on those difficulties. So my ranking for normal is 38. Now, this game isn't just a case of hitting all the notes. You have to be on time, have to hit them with the right intensity. It's very, very smart. Let's play it on normal and see how well we do. Now, I'll talk over this one.
It's amazing to watch this guy play drums in VR. It's even better when you're actually doing it. I just wanted people to sort of start to understand why this is so significant, that it's not just a video game experience where you're hitting things. This is a drum simulator as a game, and also to teach drumming. And obviously it doesn't have a bass pedal, so if you know anything about music, you still need a bass pedal. But this is how you build rhythm. This is literally how you learn where to hit. I think this is the beginning of a real drum simulation, like a real world where people are learning guitar, drums, piano. And there's already applications like this. I'm not going to get into it in this video, maybe in another, but I've done my homework at this point, and this is a learning tool, a gaming tool, a meeting tool. This is the way we're going to communicate a lot in the future. Maybe it's through augmented also reality, but this is definitely a part of the future after I bought one on a whim and got into this environment. Let me show another thing, just to show why Facebook is winning this game. I'm going to show a couple of links of why they're winning. Here is what's coming out for Facebook, if anyone knows about gaming, but here's their recent announcement.
To Quest.
I'm excited to announce that the Rockstar Games classic, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, is in development for Quest 2. This new version of what I think is one of the greatest games ever made will offer players an entirely new way to experience this iconic open world in virtual reality.
That's it, Mark. I'm moving to the MetaVerse.
All right, thanks, Deb. This is going to be amazing.
Okay, besides Mark obviously being a weirdo and sort of robotic, and look, it's not a guy we love, it's not a guy I wanted to invest in, but I'm in this to make money. I'm not in this to love Mark Zuckerberg, okay? I don't need to love him for me to understand that he is sort of a very dedicated, completely enraptured individual in what he's doing. So going up against that guy, I don't advise it unless you've got some brass balls. He is going to crush you, okay? And he's doing it right now. He's crushing the competition in VR. I'm going to have all the links below, by the way. But okay, so here's one article. The Oculus Quest 2 now accounts for over 35% of VR headset usage on Steam. This figure was revealed with the month's update to the Steam hardware survey. Quest 2 claimed an additional 1.84% of overall headset usage over the last month, growing to 35% of the total share. As it stands, Meta devices now account for 61.15% of the total VR headset usage on Steam. Did you just hear what I said? Facebook, okay, the company we all hate, the person we despise, Mark Zuckerberg, is just taking over. Okay, he's taking over this VR space, this metaverse. You can call it what you want. This guy is printing tendies, okay? And right now, people still are really down on Facebook. They have a lot of FUD. Guess what I'm doing? I'm buying a lot of Facebook, and I have bought a lot of Facebook as it dipped down to the $312 mark, and I'll show you why in a chart. Here's another thing why Facebook is winning. If you're a parent, just like I am, I wasn't going to buy a $1,000 VR set or $600 VR set. I was looking at, the only reason I bought this and even am so heavy into Facebook now is because I bought this on a whim because it was $300. Christmas is coming up. The games are affordable. They're like 10 to 30 bucks on average, maybe 20 bucks on average, let's say. And here you have the Oculus Quest 2 at $300, brand new. Okay, comes with the controllers, the headset, the whole thing. Wireless. You don't need to hook it up to a computer. You don't need a PlayStation. You don't need it to connect to anything. It's a standalone game system like a Switch. Here you have this PlayStation VR. Well, guess what? You need a PlayStation, okay? So and not only that, you have to pay more money. You have to pay $482 for a new one. Here is the Valve Index VR kit. Even better, probably better graphics. You need a whole PC to play this thing. So it's $1,600. I can keep going on and on. This thing is $300. Okay, this thing right here is $300. It's wireless. It's its own gaming thing. You can do whatever you need to do without being tethered to anything. And for the average consumer, this is the way to go. I was that average consumer. I am not a gamer. I am not a VR fanboy. I don't care about VR, or I didn't until this. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be dumping in this much money into Facebook and backing Mark Zuckerberg 100%. Because literally, I didn't understand how good he was. I didn't get it. Okay, now I get it. And you got to ignore the FUD.
I'm excited to...
You got to ignore this guy and his bad acting, okay? Because if we pay attention to that, we're being confused. We're stepping away from what we care about is actual profit from investing, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Vitaly on invest is not Vitaly on love Mark Zuckerberg. It's not that. It's not love Facebook and go have an account. I barely use Facebook. I barely use Instagram. In fact, I like Twitter better. Does it matter? No. At the end of the day, I turned that knob, I turned that switch in my head to separate the investor from the person. The investor sees the opportunity in front of them. And this guy, he knows what he's doing. I don't know how else I can prove it, but he knows what he's doing. Cnet's article, Oculus Quest 2, the best standalone VR headset. Remember, you as a parent, do you want to be now tethered, having your kid, hey, you got to set this up to the computer, you got to load up this Steam, you got to do all these things, or you put this on your head, you point the little thingy and you click and you play a game. What sounds easier? Like this is obviously a no-brainer. You don't want to spend $1,000. You don't want to spend $800, especially if you have two kids. I had to buy two of these things. So basically in the last month, I bought two Oculuses and I bought like 10, 12 games. So I've already spent $1,000 on Facebook and I've never given them a dollar besides that. I've never personally paid Mark Zuckerberg ever for anything. And now here I am paying him for $1,000 in a month. I'm going to talk about the game segment for a second because obviously that's like the primary market where this is intended for. I don't think this is the only market, and even Mark Zuckerberg goes over it in his Connect presentation. It's a long presentation. He's very robotic in it, but you should watch it for the content. And so total US games industry sales reached September record of 4.4 billion. Now, this is not saying that VR is reaching 4.4 billion, but my point being that this is not a small industry. Even the gaming industry, forget about the whole educational industry that VR can go into, and like the productivity space or the meeting space and like the Zoom space that these other companies are now worth hundreds of billions. So this is a September record of reaching 4.4 billion for gaming. This is only September. According to the NPD Group's September US Games Industry Sales Report, content and accessories reached a September record of $4.4 billion, a 3% increase when compared to a year ago. Year to date, consumer spending reached $42.3 billion, a 12% increase when compared to the same period of 2020. So you're talking about a $42 billion market right now, gaming. Not saying Mark Zuckerberg is taking that whole market. I'm just saying VR is going to be a strong contender as we move forward into the future for these kinds of profits. And this is only counting gaming. It's not even counting, like I said, the productivity stuff, maybe the educational stuff in terms of learning like drums or piano or whatever else. So there's so many opportunities with this space. It's crazy. Plus the advertising. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to do a whole valuation where I see this is going and why I invested in Facebook now as opposed to any other time, well, especially with this VR thing. If we think, how big can this get? How many units can Mark Zuckerberg sell of these Oculus things? Switch sales hit 92.87 million, expected to beat Wii this year. So we're talking about just the Switch. We're not talking about all the Nintendo products that they've sold, hundreds of millions, right? We're just talking about the one game console that's currently out, the Switch, has already sold almost 100 million units. So let's project out a little bit. Imagine 2030. Do you not think Oculus might hit these kinds of figures? Unless you're so bearish on Facebook and VR, this is a very doable thing. Remember, this is just the Switch. We're not talking about Xbox and PlayStations and all these other things that are happening. Those can make money too. I'm just strictly speaking about the Oculus and Facebook, or Meta, whatever it's called now. Okay, now let's get to the numbers and what's going on. So I actually have a whole valuation model, which we're going to go into. But before I do that, let's look at the chart. Some of you might say, this is enough for me. I understand it. I'm going to go run out Monday and buy some Facebook, okay? And the reason, look at this. This is a monthly chart of Facebook, starting from 2012, going all the way up until now. And if you don't see a pattern, you could have bought Facebook at any time in its 10-year history, and you would have done fairly well, okay? Even if you would have bought it at the tops of everything. Top. Oh, look at that, crashed. Guess what? We're at the top again. So you could have bought it at any time, and you would have been in profit every single time, okay? But what's even better is if you buy it at the opportune times, Like when it crashes, obviously we missed this point. Here's another time it crashed to 126. Then it crashed to 140. And then it crashed to 255. And now it's crashing to 312. Okay, this pattern is obvious where Facebook is going. So if you think the ride for Facebook is over, you are not looking at the same chart I am looking at. I am not some sort of a masterful genius in analyzing companies. I just like to look at their history and how they've been growing. That's it. And if more people just looked at this thing, they would see what I see, and that we have a long ways ahead. So let's just forget about the numbers for a second, my Excel spreadsheet. Let's look where it's going in the next couple of years till 2025. Just if I was doing a back of the napkin, let me look at this. Is this worth investing in? Are we at a good point? I'd be like, okay, so look, 2025, if that's my investment, it's going to be a $900 stock. So if you don't see that, $900, $950, somewhere in that range, that we're not even counting Oculus. We're not counting anything else they're doing. They're just growing the way they've always been growing at 28, 30% or so compounded continuously in their core businesses, okay? This is the monthly still, not the daily. We're looking at big, massive macro trends as opposed to like the daily trends, but here we have, it's sort of in this channel within a channel, right? These two blue lines show that it's within this channel currently, but having said that, it doesn't have to stay there, of course. The main trend is these two purple lines. So if I look at right now, when it was at this point, it was $312 or so. And yes, I was DCAing in, I was buying more, and I was buying very heavy at this point in the blue line. Even if it goes down to here, that's just a better opportunity to buy Facebook. That means my doubling, tripling of my cash will even be faster and easier the lower it goes, because this is such a high quality company. They're making bank. There's a lot of FUD right now, obviously. So you and I as investors have to take advantage of that FUD. You can hate Mark Zuckerberg all you want. You can say, hey, robot, I don't love you. I don't love Facebook. I don't use it. I don't use Instagram. You can say all these things. That is not investing, okay? You have to look at what the company's been doing, whether you believe the narrative, okay? Because you have to have some conviction in it. And then you have to follow some of the math behind it. If it all works out where it's saying that this guy's going to make bank for you, you can decide morally if you want to support it or not. You know, he's going to be okay with or without me. I might as well hop on that train, the Mark Zuckerberg choo-choo train, and 3x my money. That's what I think. For all the Facebook haters out there, good luck to you, okay? This is for the investors out there. That's who I'm talking to. All right, so if we're looking at this, is this an opportune time to buy Facebook? Look, it was probably better at $312, obviously. But to say that I'm not going to buy anywhere around this region, knowing or believing that we are going to this region of $940 or $950 at some point in the next 4 or 5 years, like, it seems insane not to put some allocation into Facebook. What I do hope for is that it breaks this trend and it goes down to this purple line so I can buy double my position at these prices. Because if it ever goes down here, I'm willing to double my position. If that happens, I will have to sell other stocks to buy this one. And the reason I would do that is because this is such a high quality company being discounted heavier and heavier. That's why. I'm not an expert. I'm not an analyst. This is not investing advice. This is only what I use as a back of the napkin calculation to see if a company is worth buying, right? And if I'm getting it at a good price, assuming its growth trajectory. Okay, so I took it from 2017. I'll include a link to this Excel file and numbers file down below so you guys can put your own numbers in. If you don't believe mine, you can put your own numbers in and do your own calculations. Okay, so here I have $40 billion in 2017 was their revenue. This is the total revenue, okay? Let's look at 2021. The revenue is $112 billion. That's estimated by the end of this year. If we look at the growth over the last 5 years, we have the percent growth roughly at 30%, okay? I'm estimating 29% 2022. I'm estimating 27% growth here, 27% growth in 2024, and 28% growth in 2025. Now, this leads to a total revenue, as you can see right here, just to be clear, 2022, $144 billion in revenue, 2023, $184 billion, 2024, $233 billion, and 2025, $300 billion in revenue. This is just using their current growth, okay? Could this be off? Are they slowing down possibly? Once again, you can put your own numbers in and change these values around. I think they're not slowing down. I think this whole Oculus thing is the bull case and they're not going to slow down. Here we have the EPS, the PE, and also the price to sales. In this valuation, I'll use the price to sales because just like I've done in some others, I use the price to sales to sort of price what the market cap will be, which means what the share price will be in the future or sort of valued at, right? Basically, we get a price to sales over the last 5 years or the last 4 years at least, to be around 9. So that's what I used here as the sort of current price to sales. And it says PE ratio. This should say price to sales. Sorry about that. So this is the price to sales, not the PE. This is going to be around 9. And now if I go through the numbers real quick, 2022 market cap $1.3 trillion. The stock price should be around $469. Okay. 2023, 1.7 trillion should be around $596 or $600. 2024, it should be 2.1 trillion. Market cap is right here, or $757. And 2025 should be around 2.7 trillion or around $973 a share. And look, if it's 950, 920, 1,000, once again, that doesn't matter. If the price of sales is around 9 and they're still growing at like 29, 30% compounded, we are expecting to have a 285% return from today. That's what I'm counting it, from $341 stock price to 2025, $973 stock price. We have a 285% return. Look, it's not a 10x. It's not a Shiba Inu. It's not a Dogecoin. It's not a meme coin. You're not going to 10x your money here, but not everything is supposed to be that. This is a safe bet for the future. So after you 10x your Shiba Inu, guess what? You should put 90% of that into something like Facebook or PayPal or Enphase or Tesla, because you want to make sure your money is secure and that it's growing, okay? Not everything in life should be a gamble. So at some point you have to start switching over. And for people in different situations, it's all different, I understand. So in my situation personally, I am starting to switch some of those growth gains over from the real growth investments. I'm starting to switch some of those growth investments, not all of it, but portions of it, as they get too big, as they become 10% or 5% of my portfolio, then I start to take some out and put it into safe bets like this that I know will 2, 3, 4x for me. Okay, so that's a spiel on Facebook. Let's get into the bull case on Oculus. The first line is total revenue, just standard business. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, that's their core business, right? So 2017, same thing as we saw before. It's 40 billion all the way to 2021 of 112, all the way to 25, probably of around 311 billion, 2025. Now, if I start to include Oculus in the metaverse, and this is including the advertising, this is including what they're selling the headsets for, this is including the 30% they get cut from the games and all the apps. So now it's an app store, right? That's what they have on their hands. And basically, the first 4 years till 2020, I'm putting 0. I know they had some revenue, but we're just ignoring that. 2021 to this year is when I start actually including it. This year, I'm assuming certain number of headsets sold and certain revenue, so it's a 2.7 billion. Next year, 2022, we're assuming Oculus revenue of 4, and 2023 is 5.7. 2024 is 8 billion, and by 2025, I expect this business to be around $11.4 billion additional revenue, total revenue, okay? This is not a net income, this is total revenue. Now the total is right here. So these numbers are right here. So let's just go into the total numbers real quick, and they're not that much higher. That's the thing. I'm not going crazy with these Oculus numbers. If you could look, their core business is totally killing it compared to these Oculus numbers. I just want to see how this is growing and that it is compounding on itself, because something small, when it's compounded over a decade, gets really big. That's important to know when you're investing, obviously. So total revenue by 2025, we're assuming is $322 billion. And I'm only assuming Oculus added 11 billion. Okay, so having said that, I just want to point out the ROIC real quick in the previous valuation, that currently, even now, Facebook is growing at an ROIC over 20%. Now remember, over 10%, it's like a growth company, all right? At 20%, you are a beast. Facebook is a growth beast, okay? Return on invested capital is an important thing we should track. And their return on invested capital is over 20%, which means they are a growth beast, okay? And I've covered this before for some other stocks, but this is an important figure to track, and we want it to be at that 20%. Tesla's, I believe, at like 26%. You're talking about these are massive growth beasts. If we assume that in the future, people notice that this number is getting bigger, the Oculus revenue number, right? So here's at 11 billion. But imagine this is growing 30%, 40% compounded, right? At some point. If you're growing faster than people think, they're going to start to catch up to that. And that means they're going to have to value you a little bit higher at some point. So I'm thinking that at some point, possible 12, becomes probable. That's what I'm thinking. So let's say it currently is with the Oculus Business market cap 1.34 trillion. The stock price of 485 is not that much different than what I think the other valuation is without Oculus. Like, so 469 without Oculus, and with Oculus 485. Not that much. $20 difference. Not too bad though. So if we stick at 9 for a couple of years, we have by 2023 $623 price target. But at this point, maybe people start to see Oculus is actually growing and we should value this company a little bit bigger. I think it might jump to like a price of sales of 10. So 2024, I'm expecting $890 stock value instead of, for example, 2024, 757. So we might have a nice little bump here of the share price that's a little bit over $100 more considering this business, okay? And if in 2025, Facebook is really proving this model, we are talking about possibly a price of sales of 12 and the stock price at $1,393 approximately, which means a 400% return. So once again, do you buy Facebook only for Oculus? I don't think so. I think even with the conventional model, you're still making 3x. I'm still buying Facebook basically because 300% is great and 400% is even better, right? So a 3x or a 4x. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I think is safe. Definitely a 3x I feel is the safe option that I think I can get that. So 10,000 becomes 30,000. 50,000 becomes 150,000. It just starts to compound. I know some people they want their 10x's, but look, not everything should be a 10x. Some money should be safe. Consider this the best bank account in the world. That's the way I think of it. Remember, not financial advice. I'm buying doesn't mean you have to. You should do your own research. You should download this and figure it out for yourself. I want to point out a couple things. Some people might want to skip this part, so please do if you don't care about the actual numbers that I got in order to value the Oculus business. But 2021, number of units sold, 7 million. And I got this because it's different websites to analyze this, and some are saying they'll sell 5 million, some are saying they'll sell 10 million. I don't know. I'm putting 7 million as sort of like the average that I think they're going to hit around 7 million, especially with Christmas and it being $300. This is a great gift. In fact, I got 2. I'm part of that 7 million. That's one of my bold things that I spent already a bunch of money on Facebook. I spent already a bunch of money on Facebook products that I never thought in my life that I would ever spend. And I can't be the only one thinking that this is an affordable game system to give during the holidays, obviously. So 2022, I'm expecting 40% growth. This is what I'm doing in terms of just the units. 10 million, then 14 million, then 19 million, then 27 million, up to 2025. Total number of units by 2025, I expect to be at around 77 million. And the reason I think this might be valid, the reason I point this out, that I think it's going to be around 77 million by 2025 is because, look, the Switch has sold 92 million. This is not counting all Nintendos. This is just counting one of their game systems. The Switch has sold 92, almost 100 million units, okay? And the time it's been out. So can Facebook sell 70 million of these things? Even 50 million? Let's say if I'm wrong. That's very possible that they can. Or even if they don't sell it by 2025, I expect at some point they will hit those numbers, 50 million, 60 million, 70 million, 100 million. I think it'll happen if they keep this sort of growth on and keeping the price down of these VR headsets because they're making it affordable for everybody. That's the point. And here you go. Switch sales, so like an affordable game console, similar pricing, has sold 100 million units approximately. Okay, so back to the spreadsheet. Look, if you look at the total revenue per year for the units, 2021, Facebook is making 2.23 billion extra. This is not counting because they're probably losing money on it. And I sort of put that down that they're not actually making a net profit, but they are getting the revenue from this. So 2.23 billion, 2022, 3.13 billion, all the way to 2025, 8.58 billion if they sell 27 million of these things in 2025, right? And honestly, these are the kind of devices that you're going to probably upgrade to. So I can see them hitting these numbers. I've included a separate line that income per console. I'm assuming they're not even going to make a lot of money off of this because I think their whole goal is to just sell you the units so they can monetize you from the App Store and they can do the advertising. It's not about the actual VR headset. But at some point, maybe they'll make 5 to 10% at some point because of just the scale of making so many of these things. Maybe they get the price low enough, the quantity big enough that they'll make a small margin on it, 5%, 10%. That's what I think. The other thing I did, another metric is interesting, the number of games bought per a game system. So I looked at just a quick back of the napkin thing. I looked at PS4. It sold 9.6 games per console. Now, remember, PS4 games are around $50-$60 if you're buying them like sort of brand new. For the Oculus, they're around $10 to $30. So let's say $20 on average, $25. They're cheaper than the actual equivalent PS4 game. So this number 9 might end up being 15, 20, who knows? Honestly, it could be more. I've already bought like 13 games because some games are $10, some games are $20, some games are $30. It doesn't feel as hard to buy a $10, $15, $20 game as it does to buy a $60 game each time. So I feel like, oh, I can buy 3 of these games in one go. That's what I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, if you're not buying a bunch of Oculus games, I would like to know if anyone has an Oculus and is buying a bunch of games. How many games do you have? Currently, I have 13, so I would update these models based on what people say too. So total income for just the games is, let's say on average, I'm assuming the games cost roughly $25 per console, $225 gross, and Facebook gets 30% of that, so they get around $67 per user in terms of the gaming profits. This is not counting any in-app purchases that are coming, by the way. There's so much stuff they're going to be doing that's like a real app store that it's crazy. And it's already easy to buy games right now. That's not even my real bull thesis, because I'm just counting basically gaming here. But what happens to all the productivity stuff? What happens to advertising? What happens to like the simulation to learn how to play instruments or teach somehow, like virtual teaching? There's like a whole world out there of VR that we haven't even touched upon in the mainstream. So we have to wait 5 to 10 years for that to happen. And Facebook will be the clear winner, in my opinion, to monetize this whole platform. VR, the MetaVerse, they're pushing big. You guys have to put in the comments who's doing a better job than them. I didn't even know Oculus was this good until like a month ago, until I went so heavy into Facebook. Luckily, the stars aligned and Facebook was down, because it just made a no-brainer to invest in this company. Total income here, I'm counting as basically the 30% they get, plus the number of users or number of units they sold. So, and that could all be different, obviously. Like one family can have multiple users. We don't know those things. So we have to wait till this plays out a little bit longer to get much more accurate figures. But I'm assuming total income for games is $473 million that Facebook gets, right, as revenue. And here it's getting $662 million, and increases all the way to $1.8 billion by 2025 in terms of revenue. Okay, I'm just including app revenue. I'll put 0 here for now because I'm adding it now. I have to think about this. What I'm assuming is that they're getting roughly $27 almost per user in terms of advertising dollars, because if you look at the last 4 years, then if you do an average, you get $26. It could be more, it could be less, but it's around there. So if I look at this is their advertising revenue. $224 million, $406 million, $662 million, and $1.02 trillion in terms of advertising. That's growing in 2025. So remember, that's a whole separate business. This is just the Oculus business. I wanted to show you where I got some of my numbers for my valuation and why I think it could be a 400% increase from here in terms of stock price. And to me, this is like a no-brainer bet. If I'm wrong about this Oculus thing, I make 300%. If I'm right about this Oculus thing, I could make 400% or even more. Like I'm doing some safe assumptions here. So take a look at this, make your own decision. And the last bit I want to show, just to say why am I so bullish, and why do I think Facebook, it's basically become a tier one game maker, like a PlayStation, like a Wii. Look at this. PlayStation 4 has sold 116 million units. PlayStation, I guess the original one, 102 million. The Wii, 101 million. Nintendo Switch, 92 million. So we're talking about when a console is popular, they roughly sell 100 million of these things. And we're at the beginning. If Facebook has sold only, let's go back to my Oculus thing, I'm counting year one, 7 million. They've obviously sold already some more from last year, but let's say 2021 is the beginning of this industry, that we're talking about they could be compounding massively. And even though I'm making these assumptions, I could be totally off and they could be going way higher. This number could be 14 million next year. Like literally they could just double the number of units sold if this is a really hot item. I don't know yet. We're going to find out as the years progress. So after 2021 is over, we're going to update this. And then when 2022 is there, we'll update it again. We'll see if Facebook is this beast that's growing bigger and bigger. And I think that it is going to get bigger and bigger. And remember, I don't even have this in-app revenue included yet. I still have to think about this. So, and the advertising revenue, like it's a whole different platform to advertise. Plus all the teaching and stuff and the learning that can happen on this platform besides gaming. So there's so much things. I'm going to end it with Mark Zuckerberg. You can't look at this guy and love him, okay? He's a robot, okay? You can't be like, I love Mark Zuckerberg. Look, you can't look at this guy and just make a decision on Facebook based on him. You have to look at the company. You have to look at what they've done. And honestly, if I just look at what they've done and the way this guy has executed, I feel like I've been ignoring him for too long. All right. I sold out of Facebook probably when it was $150. I did ride it from, $20, $30. So I did make a good profit on it. But that was a mistake. This guy knows how to make money. In fact, I'm going to say this one thing, that he reminds me of Bill Gates. If Bill Gates was around today, meaning like he was a young man trying to make Microsoft, well, we all know Bill Gates was ruthless. So Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates are probably a similar type of personality in business. And we hate Mark Zuckerberg more because he's around in the time of social media. And we hate Bill Gates less because he wasn't around that time. You didn't really know what he was doing and how he was doing it. So we see him too much. We think he's robotic. We don't like his company. But the simple fact is his company prints tendies. They make money. They are a good investment. And if they have this Oculus thing exploding, my final words are like, I just want to be a part of that. If you don't, I understand. You can move on. Everything I've shown you should at least guide you to take a look a little bit further into Facebook, right? So at least take a look further into it. Download the spreadsheet. Go over your own numbers. And then you make your own decision if this is a good investment or not. I personally think it's a great investment. And I am buying Facebook stock. Yep, I've already bought Facebook stock. I'm going to buy more as it drops, if it wants to. I'm going to have more videos that are in depth. Obviously, hit the like and subscribe. We have so many things coming out, and also Freelancer Finance. You got to check us out there because we're going to be having videos on buying FUVs, buying some Teslas. Yes, we're ordering a couple of Teslas. And we're going to be having another video with Lee from LG Investments and Research, and it's going to be interesting. We're going to discuss Facebook, PayPal, a bunch of other stuff. All right, please like and subscribe, hit that bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.